Hey, Dave here with another Drifter Dev Diary. Going to talk about schedule and like how I plan time and all that stuff this time. Someone on the Discord was sort of asking about, as an idea for one of these, about like where the game kind of was, a few years ago and where it is now, and like how what's changed and how much has changed and all that stuff. So I can talk a bit about that. I haven't been doing these dev diaries that much recently, partly because I've been just going into the office more. We have like a couple of desks in a sort of shared dev space, shared office space with a bunch of other devs. It's been really fun going in there, and I guess I get a lot of my my sort of socializing done there, so I don't need to stream as much. And yeah, so doing that and then hanging out in our Discord and chatting in there as well, sort of replaced the urge to stream and chat to people there. But and also because I'm in the office, I'm not home as much, so I can't really do these while there's a bunch of people working behind me. Yeah, so getting art in for this sort of last third of the game, which is in a set in a kind of lab, underground lab kind of thing. So that's been. It was sort of work, kind of artwork stuff stalled a bit there for a while, just because there was a lot of, I guess, iteration on like the style, and then a lot of rooms to build up to be at before we could do animation and start getting stuff in. But the last few months we've been getting more and more art of that stuff in. I can show a bit of it. Yeah, so I've just been doing sound pass stuff for the lab, like walking around, so that's been really fun, getting it feeling like an actual place, which is awesome. Mitch has been doing heaps of music, so there's music for all the lab section stuff, which has really got this mix between like a bit of the soundtrack for the Dig, which I really love, and a bit of like Blade Runner, Vangelis kind of stuff, and also the John Carpentry vibes as well. So it's quite ambient in this section, but yeah, this definitely goes hard later as well. I've been putting a bunch of little ambient sound effects in here. So yeah, there's sort of lab section, you wander around and explore. It's sort of a circular thing, and then some of these rooms you can go in as well. This one's just empty. So yeah, like a lot of these rooms, because they're kind of all the same art style, they all came up together. The art was sort of being done kind of in parallel. So like it took a while before any of them were sort of finished, even though a lot of them were kind of half done for a long time. So you can go up down these lifts. Sorry, I'm double clicking to skip. There's these kind of bigger lab rooms. Oh, I wasn't going to show this one. Sneak peek. Sanjay. I like this character. Yeah. What else? So it's been fun getting like lots of animations like that in recently, and sound effects for them as well. I've got sounds and stuff for all these, except no animations yet. Ladders and hatches and things. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, there's not much I can show. Like, there's all these other floors and places to interact with, but I can't show too much. Because I don't want to spoil stuff. So talking about the topic, the schedule, what's it look like, all that stuff. I guess I can jump straight to the current state of it, or maybe I'll do a bit more historically. So with our earlier games, like with say Crawl and Regan Basketball, where I was more just doing programming, I was kind of using all my skills from being a lead programmer previously, and sort of scheduling like sprints I was using Handsoft, which is sort of scheduling sort of project management software I quite liked. It sort of lets you can be a lot simpler than using Jira or like a lot of things like that, because partly it just lets you really quickly put out a bunch of like a big list of tasks and hook up times and then work out how long things are going to take and drag things to the sprints and out. I don't know, they probably all do that a bit, but I found a lot of them just creating a new task is quite laborious, whereas Handsoft was really nice, even though it's really made for bigger companies. So yeah, I was using that and planning sprints, and like I'm pretty good at scheduling and working out how long a programming task will take. Like, I just got a kind of feel for that working as a lead programmer for a while. But then the Drifter is a bit different. After Regular Human Basketball, which was a much smaller game, I kind of thought it'd be kind of worthwhile doing a game that can take a bit, that being happier to make a game that takes longer. And part of the reasoning, I guess, was just because there's so many games being released all the time. There's not really a need for more people to make more games so much. Like, if less people made less but higher quality games, then you'd still have plenty of games to play. It's not like we're running out of games to play. So I was pretty happy deciding, I'll spend longer on a game. I won't just try and make super quick stuff like Regular Basketball or other things like that, at least for the next project. And I think it's a grass is greener thing. So now I really just want to get back to like making stuff that's smaller and quicker and I can get out quicker. But that was the sort of one of the early thoughts I had in terms of working on a bigger title, and also making an adventure game. Like I've made adventure games since I was first making games, but the people who do it really well, Wajidai, Granislav, a bunch of others they've been doing it for a long time, and they've released a lot of bigger adventure games, and that's why the ones they make are always consistently good. And you can sort of see if you play them all, you can sort of see how they've got better and better. And so I kind of wanted to try and shortcut to the end and not just be making my first one as like it's not as good, So so that I knew that would involve a bit more iteration and a lot more sort of development personally, like working out how to become a better writer and putting, I guess, a lot more time into it than it would take. Take say Dave Gilbert or someone to make a game, because I'm trying to sort of get all that learning from multiple projects into one, but also while doing little game jams and things like that. So learn a bunch from that, and I'm pretty confident about the game being pretty good and that level. The writing side is the feedback's been good, so I think like there's so much learning to do on the writing side, a lot more than I thought. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to be rambling this whole time. I think this is a very rambly topic. So anyway, yes, I sort of knew this was going to be a bigger thing. I definitely underestimated basically how much time things like design and writing basically takes, and including in writing, I mean, like things like plot, like working out the plot, working out what who the characters are, what their arc is, all that stuff. Because like a programming task, I can estimate, yep, this will take, like I can see that getting done within 3 days. That'll definitely be done, but so I can do it like that. As soon as it came to trying to apply that to any kind of design, like coming up with an idea doesn't take time. So surely coming up with 100 ideas also doesn't take any time, because it's just 0 times 100. But obviously it does actually take a lot of time, and sometimes it takes the most time because you get stuck on something and you're just battling with that problem for ages, and trying different approaches to a design and plot. So the early part of design for the Drifter was a lot of that, and that was kind of through the first couple of years and through COVID and stuff as I was mocking up the game. But through that whole process, I was trying to keep organized. So I've always done that in a few ways since the start of Powerhoof. So one of the ways is I have this list of this massive list of Excel documents that I started on the first sort of week. because I want, my partner Claire, now wife, is was working full time then, and like it didn't seem fair to me that she would go to work full time for money while I'd just be sitting at home in my pants doing nothing, So I was like, no, I've got to treat this as a 9 to 5, from day one. And also, I sort of wanted to split my time between a few projects. So this is my very first week, I guess. I just made this little thing after trying, I guess, a bunch of different scheduling software and going, I'll just do an Excel spreadsheet. But basically, I just, listed out the time of day, and I was managing. I'll try and do free writing every morning for half an hour. Just couldn't do that when I was working at EA. So fun, exciting new stuff. And I was working on this Hillary, this game called Hillary, which is like an early idea I had for an adventure game that I wanted to mess around with. And Rogue was working on crawl ideas, or working on crawl development basically. Very early, it was just called 4-player roguelike. And then, so I was basically trying to work out how to split my time between these things. And then there was also like prototyping and business development stuff. And yeah, I just kept doing this, and I'm still doing it. So now we're up to week 573. So last week I had a day off and then did business stuff for an hour on Tuesday, and then on Friday, all Friday morning was business stuff. So I had to do tax and payroll and all this stuff. And then at the moment, the rest is mostly production. So production for the Drifter is like getting all the art and audio and making the game final. Jumping back a bunch, I was doing a lot more design and mock-up stuff. So that's why there's sort of fields for those that I was measuring to see how much time I was putting to different things. And sort of at the end of each year, more recently, I'd been having a look at how I'd spent my time. And so this is how I spent the time in 2020. Is that 2021? No, 2022. So like I just quickly wrote down the stuff in here, and you can see I was trying to minimize how much time I spent on other stuff. So this was basically just a way of like, what did I spend my time on, and what did I want to spend my time on? And so you can see other is things like random other game jams, other ideas, and also all the business stuff I end up having to do, including things like events and random other stuff. Working on the engine, like PowerQuest. So you can see the green bits are, so here, engine, I didn't do too much engine stuff. The green down here is how much time I spent mocking up the game. So that's like mocking up the next part of the game. And production, this blue stuff started to become more important. I think I finished pretty much the mock-up of the whole entire game, midway through the year, or towards the end of the year. And then I was just going fully into like getting art and audio and stuff in. I think the year before this was, so 2021, you can see there was a big chunk of working on the engine, this purple bit here, because I was doing a GUI system. I think that was like, I spent a month doing just GUI, doing this GUI system thing I needed. And then this big blue chunk here was working on my Tailwinium, I think. And then most of the other was, just doing the mock-up, and then bits of production as that came up. The other sort of personal scheduling thing I do is these sort of basically just to-do lists that I have in Notepad++. So this week I've been getting in animation. Last week was mostly sound effects stuff. So this is all stuff was done. So this is all putting in sound designs, adding sound and stuff for this whole section. But you can, if I go right back to near the start, working on the engine here. Writing passes, engine, placeholder art. So I've always done that as well. And I like it being in Notepad because it's just super quick. yeah, so this one is going back to December 2020, looking at how far, like how I was making progress. This is with like mocking up the game in my sort of mock-up style. How much progress I'd made and how much I still, had to go, and how long I thought it would take. And you could see I thought I'd be shipping the game in November 22, so that didn't happen. And this was very, this is quite early. But yeah, I sort of first had some thoughts about it back in 2017, when I first sort of was working out kind of what I thought I'd want to do. And that was pretty much straight after we made the Game Jam Peridium thing. Peridium. So that was like a week. I really liked the narration style and my friend Adrian's character voice. So I sort of was like, oh, this will be a cool adventure game cool style of adventure game to make. So I had this sort of first person, present tense narrator. I'd fade to black over like scenes where like a lot of crazy stuff happened that would be too expensive to animate. But I can describe it in this sort of audiobook style. So the kind of core stuff was there. The gritty, thrillery vibes and stuff I really liked. And so yeah, I'd kind of been throwing around ideas while still working on Crawl and then regularly basketball throughout that year. And the Port and Crawl, I guess, as well. Yeah, and then later on, like I really started development in 2019. And a lot of that was kind of bit by bit going through like surrounding sequence that's in the demo, and then there's a cemetery and a funeral, you go to a crypt, there's a hospital section, and then I was working on the demo as well through this bit, and also working on like control scheme stuff. And then yeah, the really time consuming part here was just like working out the plot, like what happens in the game and everything. Like it was just taking me ages, so I was feeling really behind it already. Like, and then the climax of the game, I thought was a climax, actually ended up being the second last chapter, end of the second last chapter, basically, because it was just fell flat. And I ended up with a much cooler ending. But at this point I didn't know that. So here, this was where I was up to week 403, and I was trying to sort of work out how much more time it would take. And I was like, if it takes about the same time again, maybe to do the second pass on each chapter, get art in and fix it up. And I really wasn't estimating that art would. I was sort of imagining art would just come up at about that speed as well, but I very, very much underestimated that. This is my big production grid thing. I'm going to zoom out. So this is like how much is done and how much is left to go. So it doesn't most of it's mostly done. So yeah, I've got columns for things like my design. That first column's all done, and testing sort of pass on that's all done. Text pass is all done. Sound effects pass is getting there. Music pass is almost done. There's a bit of like getting the controller working, across the whole game, not just in the demo. That's not too much work, and VO obviously is a big thing as well. But yeah, the bigger things are this bit here basically, and this is like getting background art finished, animation stuff finished, and then implementing like all the finished art into the game. And so that's the bit I've been sort of mainly trying to track progress of, because that's really been the slow point since in the last couple of years. So here is basically the progress since October 22. Of all the different stuff. So Matt was doing backgrounds, and even already that was sort of well ahead of everything else. And so there's flat areas here where he hasn't been working on when no backgrounds got done, but that's just because they were so far ahead we didn't need to be doing more. And so yeah, the red line is Barney's passes on backgrounds, and that's something which took longer than I expected. It was taking longer. Like I think initially some of them were just taking a few hours, but then a lot of them are taking a month, taking weeks or a month even, for really complicated ones to to do it sort of, just to nail them down, and especially with the sort of lab section towards the end, they've just been a lot of really complicated iteration and stuff like that. And so following that, generally following behind the background stuff was the animation that Alex has been helping out with. And Barney's also been doing bits of that. But yeah, so the animation, you got a bit ahead of the backgrounds, because there was some where we could animate the scene based on Matt's stuff. Wasn't going to change a whole lot. So that's the green line, and then the purple line here is my pass on getting all the stuff in game, which is another sort of bit of time consuming stuff. So that's the real thing that's taking a long time. And you can see there's flat patches where sort of there hasn't been much progress for a while. And that's, each dot is a month. So, you can see like 3 months or 2 months there where really there wasn't progress on anything. It was, and there would have been progress happening. It's just that nothing was getting completed, so I could tick it off. Yeah. And this is basically done per scene that happens. But yeah, things like, so the writing pass is all done. That was this orange line. And my sound effects, I've been getting more time to spend on sound pass recently. So that's kind of up to the point of where the rest of the art stuff's in. And then, so yeah, spending my time on that stuff between, when waiting for bits of art. Also, yeah, voice acting stuff. I've started getting the main character voice acting in, doing little sessions with Adrian. So it's coming along. Just like if you follow this trajectory, it doesn't look like it'll be this year. And so I've also been doing some. I've been writing down when I think certain things are going to be finished. So say this is my current date that I'm predicting having all my work of putting the art and stuff in. That's not including like all the release stuff, like pre-release, like planning, like marketing and trailer and ports, maybe if we want to get ports beforehand, things like that. So there's, and like all the final bug testing pass and like things like that. So there's always going to be a bunch of like a month or two, a couple of months at least, of like just the game's done, like it's beta basically, and before like it's like published, But yeah, so January is like my currently predicted date of based on the current trajectory where it's going to finish. So yeah, I really wanted it out this year, but my numbers say it's not happening based on like how long things have taken so far. But yeah, you can sort of see where these are like, I've been writing down like what these numbers are basically every month, so I can keep track of like how my estimates are going. And this is sort of a graph of those. Like, so this is the last 5 months. Matt's stuff is Matt's background passes are kind of already done pretty much. So that's not even showing up on this graph. But yeah, these lines ideally would be flat, because that means every month that passes, we're getting closer to January, and that a month's work has been done. So that should be a flat line. But you can see the general, like Barney's one's been going up. Alex has sort of climbed and then sort of flattens out. And I think it's going to, because he's taking a bit of time off soon, it'll probably go up a bit. And yeah, you can see Barney's was a very steep trajectory early on. I'd sort of underestimated a lot of how much time that would take. So this is the full thing going back the last 13 months. And so I adjusted how long it would actually take for Barney's work in each scene, and then that sort of brought it up to around this period here. But I'm still probably underestimating it a bit, because it's still taking that's still climbing, whereas ideally it'd be going down or flat. Matt's is climbing, but mainly because he's only got like one background or one or two backgrounds left, and they're not ready to do, so he's not actually working on the projects. That's why he's climbing. He's climbing because whenever he has done one, it's like it jumps down, But yeah, so the last 4 months I've been actually making more progress than I thought I would be. That's this downward slope, which is good. And animation's been coming along. The backgrounds in this lab, some of them have been really big, complicated ones. So that's why the red line's going up. But hopefully that doesn't keep going up. And so one good thing is that the final, or a lot of the final backgrounds are just a different kind of lighting pass on existing backgrounds. So hopefully that means they're a lot quicker, because it's like, you've got all the drawing there and like everything's figured out. It's just like, okay, now we've got to change the lighting so it looks moodier, or like the lights go down or whatever. I don't know if there's anything else I can show you on this that's interesting. That's why I've always been it's always been a when it's done project, and I've never said even what year it's coming out. People just think it's next year. They always just think it's next year. Like, oh, surely next year it's coming out, because I haven't said anything. But no, I've never said that. So yeah, 2025 looks more likely than but 2026, maybe. We'll see. I'm pretty confident it'll be next year, but not confident enough to say that it's coming out next year yet. Yeah, cool. Well, in that case, maybe that gives some insight into things. I don't know if that's useful at all. It's really not been a project that's been plannable in the same way that that crawl and regular basketball were, because it's not something where there's little blocks of like, okay, well, we want to add 3 more enemies. The enemies take this much time, we'll add them. It's kind of things like the design stuff were just such a mushy thing. Like how long does it take to design a like 6 to 7 hour or 6 to 8 hour adventure game? Who knows? Like I've never done that before, and it can vary hugely. This huge amount, like because you can come up with all the ideas on the first day, and it all just works, or you can like get stuck and like spend ages banging your head against things, and like So I've never. One good thing with this project is I haven't had to. Because I kind of implemented the whole game to be playable in my sort of mock-up style initially, I've never had to say, sorry, Barney, but this big scene, or this like 2 months of work or whatever that you did, where I'm completely changing it now because it has to change, So he was working on Acid Knife at that point, and then working part-time, I guess, as well, but on the Drifter when he first started out. But yeah, I'd already kind of got the game all finished, and then the first few chapters tested, and done another pass on them to make them, like, to fix all the things that came up during testing before Barney touched them, Barney or Alex on that. And so it was hasn't been any work thrown away, so that's a positive, unless you count, I guess, Barney redoing some art that he wanted to redo to be more his style. But that's a bit different. So that's a positive. But yeah, I can't imagine once this is done wanting to tackle a game that has this sort of level of production value in the same way, just because it's grueling how long it takes, and something like Telwinium, where I can make a background in a day, and for Telwinium that's slow, and then get it in the next day, and then it's write the dialogue the day after that. When it takes like a month just to do the background, or it's just well, I guess it has been a month for some of them, but at least a couple of weeks. That feels much slower. And all all the writing and the plotting is all like a lot more iterative, because I wanted to kind of do a first draft and then come back and work out how to be, how I can improve things, because as I said at the start, I wanted to skip ahead to being good at making a plot and an adventure game plot, and make a good adventure game the first time, which is, I think, a lot harder than doing it the fourth time. All right, well, that's half an hour of me rambling about scheduling and really boring stuff. So like the most boring dev diary ever. And I guess as for like how the original question for the devlog was how the project has changed from the very start to now. And honestly, that it really hasn't. Like that, I've sort of had a particular quality bar to hit, which was sort of shown in the demo, and like the things have improved a bit since the demo. Like there's more animation, nicer some nicer sort of mechanic stuff, like control stuff that's gone in. But for the most part, that's the quality bar I've been trying to hit and it's just been slow going. It's much easier making short games that just have like a sort of one note kind of twist or little character arc that's done and dusted in like half an hour. Whereas when you have to have a lot of them overlapping for multiple characters, that seems to be a lot more complicated. And then, I think the production values just sort of definitely kind of crept up a little bit as we went, partly because we got more help. So we got sort of Matt helping with backgrounds and Alex helping with animations, which meant like we can do a bit more animation since that wasn't the bottleneck. It was more on me and Barney, so things like that. I don't know. I'm still rambling, but So I guess after the Drifter, I'll probably get Telwinium out, and that will be like a less than 6 months from start to finish project if I release that on Steam, which will be like very, very different. But obviously very different level of production and much more niche because it's this EGA style. Doesn't have voice acting, doesn't have I can't really do good sound production in that because it's just all MIDI kind of style sound effects. So there's only so much you can do, and there's only 16 colors, so I can't really push things much further. And it's good designing that chapter by chapter in just 2 week stints basically. Means that I'm not doing the whole iterating over the whole story and making to develop it. I'm just like, well, if it's not good, too bad, because it's already going in game. Which is scarier, but I think is faster as well. So that's probably one of the differences I'd be for the next game. But for this game, I had to sort of do that learning and work that stuff out at one point in my life before I can do it fast. So it's just the way it happened. And also COVID years, was a lot less productive. So you can say that. Don't include those 2 years, and it's much, much more realistic timeline for this game. And anyway, I'll leave it there. Sorry for the long, boring, rambling one, but next time maybe I'll be more interesting. Might tackle a more kind of specific adventure game topic and not just a broad, boring one like this. We'll see. But till then, bye.